What's up, guys? It's Brian from Sinister Gaming. Just wanted to showcase my top 32 YCS Cancun Runick deck profile. It's Runick Stun. I figured I'd play it just because it's really well positioned in the format, and I think it's going to be well positioned on the when the next set drops as well. So, yeah, I did pretty much as I expected. I was really prepared for most of the matchups, especially Tenpai. I was expecting to see a lot there, and I think I played like 5 or 6 rounds of just Tenpai. Even though it was a short event, that was majority of my matchups. And yeah, we can just get straight into it right here. So for the first few cards, just kind of like the staple Runick cards, and the Slumber, and the Freezing. So these are pretty much the ones that are never going to change. You know, our 3-ofs, all the main ones. And then those are all standard. And then these are also kind of standard too, but these are all just the 1-ofs. In games 2 and 3, I was starting to cut the droplet more, especially against Tenpai, just because I don't want them to draw their out, like Lightning Storm and stuff like that. It's a little bit more important in those types of matchups because usually you're just going to die the same turn that they draw it. So, and the other matchups, you know, to be a little bit more of a grind, you kind of interact with them a little bit more. But yeah, Tenpai is like just very all in, so I usually side this out games 2 and 3. And then for the only monster in my deck, I decided to play Inspector Warder. It was the better choice of the two of Amano Awado in this. This was really strong, especially like I mentioned earlier. I expected to play a lot of Tenpai, and I did. So when I lost the die roll, which I did lose about half my die rolls, and they make me go first anyway, and I just, you know, summon this. If they don't have Raigeki or Dark Hole, you pretty much just are going to win off of this and your Runick Engine. You don't need any of your Floodgates. So that happened maybe 2-3 times where my opponent's just passing turn while I'm just sitting on this and attacking, or, you know, just there. And even if it gets impermed, you know, you still have your other cards to play with. So, and the body itself matters for Tyrant's Tirade, which I'm playing in the deck, which you'll see in a bit. And then for the other consistency cards, I'm playing the 5 pots. I'm not playing the card scanner just because I'm not really a fan of using it, and I kind of like the power that Desires has. Even though you can potentially banish Fountain, I did banish like 1 or 2 fountains once or twice, but it wasn't that bad. And yeah, I usually side this out, one of them out going second, and then I usually don't side this out when I go second because I'm playing targets that are really nice to have, like in the side deck for games 2 and 3 when you're going second. And then the other last few cards are the Terraforming, the One Day, and the Card of Demise. I wasn't playing Terraforming in my last rendition of this deck, but I just wanted the max consistency possible for this version. I didn't really care about, you know, my ratios as much for like the Floodgates. I actually cut down on a good amount of the Floodgates. So in place I have like the Terraforming to search, you know, just to get the Fountain. Especially if you open Desires plus Terraforming, that's pretty good. And worst case scenario, you could always just like pitch this at the end phase if you have too many cards in hand, which I did a couple times. 1 day apiece is like super mandatory against a Tenpai heavy meta. You can just draw this, guarantee yourself to live for a turn, and then pass. And even against like U-Bell and stuff, sometimes they won't even put out a full board if you're under 1 day apiece. So you kind of just make them play a little bit more mediocre. So that's pretty cool too. And then Card of Demise was really good. I didn't expect to see it as much as I did during this event. I probably drew like maybe 5 to 7 times, and that was really broken. I think it resolved every time too, because I was leading with Tip or some type of other searching card like Terraforming, and people would usually ash that first card, and then, you know, this was like always resolving. So I did get ashed a lot today during the event too, so it's not like I just played for free most of the time. And I did summon Hugin a good amount, like more than I'm used to playing. So that was interesting. I was just drawing a lot of runic spells too. For the floodgates parts, which everyone loves, is the 2D fissure, the 2 synchro zones. I'm just going to go over them a little bit one by one. The D fissure is good going first and second. You can use this in certain combinations to break boards or bait interruptions or bait like IP Masquerena into SP, which that hasn't come up, or it didn't come up with the YCS, but like in testing and stuff and other like tournaments, I would like activate this. You know, if they don't have anything, then I just Cosmic the Fire King Island, blow up all their monsters, and they all get banished. So it's really good going second. If they don't negate this, I mean, you're probably in a good spot. So, and it plays around Jolt too, because you know they can't send it to grave. And Valor, which Valor doesn't affect your deck that much, but when you're going in a specific combination that I've had encountered before, is when you're going second and you summon Border and your opponent has a monster from the extra deck out, they can Valor the Inspector Border. So that prevents that interaction. Synchro Zone's really good. It's still pretty good against Tempai too, but it's better when it's accompanied with one other Floodgate or just any runic spell, because they're gonna immediately go into like a Biden Dragon or the level 7 that pops a card on the field on Synchro Summon. I forget, the name is like, I think it's Q-Belt. Yeah, Q-Belt is usually the one that pops this. So if anything, that just baits it and it drags the game out a lot for Tempai, and then their momentum like slowly goes down. And if they're just opening up like Sangan Summoning or Sangan Kaiman into Chandra, that just stops the entire line. And pretty much from there they can't really play. And that was happening quite a bit. It was kind of, I could tell there's a little bit of frustration on my opponents when they, you know, were just having Chandra, and that's normally game on its own. But the Synchro Zone was pretty much saving me there. So I still keep it in against Tempai, at least one. Like, if anything, yeah, I'll just keep one in there. And then the obvious like card is Skill Drain. Sometimes I actually do side this out because I just don't want to make a mistake and lose to me flipping this and like not being able to Hugin protect. So it's good, but we never really needed more than the 1. So I actually don't mind that they hit this down to 1. And I saw it like a decent amount of times, but not that much. But I'm used to playing like without this card, so I think it's fine. But when you do see it and they don't have like board wipes in game 1, you know, you pretty much just win the game. Yeah, only against like Tempai where in game 1 like that Hugin situation can come up more consistently, but against every other matchup, yeah, of course it's going to be really strong. And then the other one of Floodgates that I'm playing, I think the strongest one of these was definitely TC Boot, just because of the Tempai matchups that I was playing, and then I also played against U-Bells. So, you know, that this is probably the best one out of all of them besides Skill Drain. The one that I kind of wish I bumped up more was the Grave. I do have one extra on the side deck, and I just didn't really see it enough in the tournament, but yeah, this was like super good with Synchro Zone because you lock out their main monsters from attacking, and then the Grave pretty much stops the synchros, and from there Tempai just can't play at all. And you can actually, and this is actually good against U-Bell too. Not as good as it is against like Tempai or like Branded or, you know, Centurion or something like that, but yeah, this card is like basically broken when it's on the field. Gozen wasn't that good. It is one of the worst ones of like the ones that are limited, but I did play against Fluwanderies. I didn't flip it against them, but I kept it in against them, so it can't be that terrible, but I would still keep it in just in case. You know, the format's pretty diverse, so Gozen isn't too bad. And with the inclusion of Fiendsmith into the format and Azamina into the next one, I feel like Gozen's actually going to be pretty decent because you're only going to lock them into lights, darks, fires. Pretty much that's going to be the majority of like the meta. So if someone just starts with like a Fiendsmith Engraver or like a Lurie into Requiem, you can just flip this on the Fiendsmith engine. They can't really do anything. Like, all they can really do is just try to make up Desiree, but if you have like an imperm or a freezing curses to negate the sequence, like they're just sitting on one line. It's pretty bad. And then Rivalry is just good against everything that TC Boo is not good against. The reason why I'm only playing one Tyrant's Tirade is I just wanted my deck to perform really well going first or second. Like I mentioned a few times, I was anticipating like the Tempais to be really popular there, but I didn't want to just purely rely on that fact that, oh, I'm going to go first, like, just because I'm only going to play against Tempai. There's other matchups, like, I played against some rogue decks where I didn't win the die roll, and, you know, I did draw this, and it wasn't that great. So, this is strictly mainly good going first. In grind games, yeah, it could be really good, like, when you have your Inspector border and you're trying to clear your extra monster zone, instead of overlaying, you can just tribute with these two, and then kind of protects you from hand traps and monster effects on the field. So when I had this, it was good. It's really good when you're playing the horse, which I'm playing in the extra deck, which I'll be getting to momentarily. And then, so for the extra deck, we have the standard 3 Hugin, 3 Gary, 2 the Wolf, 2 Moonin, and then I'm just gonna go straight into the Sleipnir. Mainly because of the Sleipnir, I've summoned it. I've seen a few people in profiles with stuff about Runick Stun saying how this card isn't mandatory. I don't know about you, but I summon this card like once a game because it's so broken. Like, it's SP Little Knight during your opponent's battle phase. It slows down the game a lot. The only floodgate that conflicts us with this is Rivalry. So, you know, you can summon this and still Hugin protect. And with Rivalry, obviously, you can't Hugin protect. So, and it's also just really, really good against Tempai. Because if you summon this, and they're just doing the Chandra line, you know, they used all their hand just to pretty much go all in on the Chandra line to try to OTK. And they need the attack to go through. If you summon this and just banish the Chandra, they're never going to resolve that card. So if you're ever playing against like Tempai, that's just usually just the way how you're going to win. And even in like in simplified game states where I have like some floodgates and stuff like that, my opponent gets to recycle like engravers and stuff every turn, you know, and attach like requiems to them. So if you're banishing the engraver or just like any monster, they pretty much can't make a Link 2 like Yama, another Closed Moon's Link 2. Like, it pretty much just stops them from climbing and just makes them pass. So, and then this is really good with Inspector border because you can just banish this, even though it doesn't sound good on paper, like, oh, Inspector border plus 1 monster effect your opponent gets. But if you have to do that, there's like game states where you have Inspector border plus this, and you can just basically have them locked into the 1 monster effect, and you have your 1 monster effect, which is to banish. You can just keep protecting your Inspector border from like Bystials and stuff like that, which is actually like really ridiculous. So that came up a few times too. And this card works with the Tyrant's Tirade because of the token summoning effect, which I never really resolved since I'm only playing 1. But yeah, this card is like super slept on. I don't know why people say they don't play it. And then Moonin, you know, you can pretty much stop Cosmic and gain life points for wholesome purposes, but I never had to go to that because I never went to time. This card's good just for like stalling and simplified game states, just to beat over things. Jerry's just to stall the game out, and then Hugin's to get your Fountain and protect. So that's pretty much it. And then I had SP Little Knight, which I summoned like 3 or 4 times to banish to clear out my extra monster zone, and that's essentially it. I did play Typhon. I never was able to summon it ever. But you still have to keep it against like Branded and stuff like that, so I wouldn't cut it. I summoned Baguska once actually against Tempai. I just had to clear my extra monster zone, but instead of summoning SP, this was just a little bit more suitable for the situation, just because we were approaching like a very simplified game state. He had no more pretty much synchros to synchro with because he banished off Prosperity for 6. And he just had, and he started, so he already used his seals. So basically, he just had a Princess plus like 3 other synchros to make, and this basically secured the game because I was just sitting on it and he couldn't do anything. And then I did play Exciton Knight. which I never used. It almost came up one time, but the deficit was off. So I think if I was going to make a change in the extra deck, I'm probably going to cut this to play Diamond Direwolf, because there's a couple instances in the past, and during this tournament there was one instance where I had a Gary and an Inspector border, or just 2 Inspector borders and like nothing else, and I couldn't activate any of my my back row because they're all clogged just from like card demise type of shenanigans, like you'll draw like too many floodgates and not enough Runick cards, so I can't like do anything if my opponent doesn't play. So I might play Diamond Direwolf just to overlay those 2 and just pop my own back row. So that's something I'm like heavily considering, because that's come up like more than times that I like to admit. And then the side deck, I played the Spooky. This card is okay. It was better like in testing and stuff, because I guess people just don't know how to scoop. But at the YCS, this never came up, because I usually 2-0'd most of my opponents, or never really just went into time. And I did play a lot of Tempai, and this card just kind of not good against it. So in the future, this might go out, but it just depends on how the meta shapes up. So I could see this staying in at the same time, but you know, this is like good even like when you side it in with like 20 minutes left, because it's kind of like a max C. But maybe in the next set, I'll just play the new max key card, the new Little Charmy, instead of this. So because a lot of people might side it out from as a cross-out target too, because they won't expect me to have it. Here's the sphere modes. Kind of wish I saw this more. I always like duality for it after I already committed my normal summon or something, so it was kind of useless. But it was only useless in the sense that I didn't see it, but if I had saw it, or if I did see it, it would have won me the game outright against every matchup that I saw, that I played against. Because the only card that is relevant is like Desiree send something, but if you just do this as your first action, it doesn't fucking matter, so you're good. And then we have Amano Iwado. It was a little bit worse this time around for some reason. Everyone just had like imperm when I summoned this, which kind of sucked. It kind of defeated the whole purpose of it being, you know, pretty useful. So yeah, and then so I was like scared of people like ashing me and trolling me, so I kind of like had to normal summon this before activating Pot of Duality, and then like I mentioned, I would just duality reveal this after I already summoned this. So it's like, yeah, it's so annoying. But this card is really good, even just going first if you want a little bit more protection against hand traps. But normally it fulfills its role really well, but this time it just didn't make the cut. But yeah, fun fact, if they imperm this and it lives, it's pretty broken because it just stays on the field forever. Because it only returns to the hand the same turn that it's summoned, flip summoned, or flipped, or flips, or regular normal summon, sorry. And then 3 Cosmic, just for the... I was expecting to play mirror matches, just because this deck's pretty budget. And it's also pretty good against the Fiendsmith engine to Desiree. I would say that's the primary use of it. And every now and then there's like anti-spell fragrance. So I don't want to take my chances with anti-spell fragrance, so these always usually come in at least 2 at a time. I might consider playing evenly match, but I don't think I really missed playing that card. And then for the last, just mainly going first cards, an extra Grave. I'd probably try to fit this in the main deck somehow. Maybe cut the Tyrant's Tirade. I don't know. Might change up just depending on the next set release. And then the 3 Judgment, I mean, pretty mandatory. I was playing like Dark Bribe and Curse Seal, but you know, this card just like works most of the time, and then I play pretty quickly, so I don't go into time, so time's like not an issue, or the life point part isn't an issue. And then sometimes your opponent would play or wouldn't play, and I had like 2 to 3 instances come up in the past, and once during the round 9 where my opponent just wasn't playing any cards, and I had to start activating Runick cards, or otherwise I'd be decking myself out. So I'd actually just activate a Floodgate and Solemn Judge on my own Floodgate, so that gives me 2 spots to play Runick spells in. where I was previously clogged. So yeah, you can negate your own cards. Worst case scenario, if your opponent's trying to play the conservative strategy against you. So that did come up, and I won games from activating Judgment on my own cards. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, comments, hate comments about Runick, feel free to drop it below. I had fun at the event. I don't think my opponents did, but it is what it is. It's a good choice for the event, and yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.